Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to present on this topic, renewable and compostable flexible packaging. I will start by introducing myself. My name is Amaia Cowan. I have worked for the last 22 years in the flexible packaging industry, many of these years in the plastic industry. Today, I am the Business Development Manager for Futamura Cellulose Films, a producer of renewable and compostable films under the brand name of NatureFlex. Let's introduce very quickly the company that I represent, Futamura. Established in 1947 with a group turnover of just over $800 million, Futamura employs around 2,000 employees and sells to over 100 countries. The company produces a range of products, including plastic films. The division that I represent is the cellulose film division. We produce around 34,000 tons of cellulose film, a quantity that is just about to increase with our recent capacity investment. We are recognized as a leading global company for renewable and compostable packaging films. Our main brand is NatureFlex, a range of renewable and compostable films designed to meet the growing demand for environmentally responsible packaging. In today's presentation, I will be showcasing examples of compostable packaging solutions. But before I go any further in this, why would anybody consider compostable packaging? The first thing I would simply say is that we need packaging. For many, many years, it has been useful to transport, inform, attract customers, and most importantly, protect. Plastics have done a great job at protection. 2 grams of plastic wrapped around a cucumber keeps it fresh for 11 days. Steaks can be preserved for 26 days. Fantastic. However, we are all aware of the impacts of plastics and packaging on our environment. They have all well been covered by the press. So instead of flashing some awful pictures of animal or nature with plastics that have been covered by the media in the last few years, I am going to concentrate on facts. Facts that have been published by independent experts on sustainability. What is the scale of the plastic issue? What are the solutions? There was a landmark study published in 2020 called Breaking the Plastic Wave. It was written by the Pew Charitable Trust and Systemic, together with input from expert authorities such as the University of Oxford, the University of Leeds, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, and Common Seas. It's a rather large but interesting report, one that would encourage all to read. The report shows where we have been with plastics today and predicts where we could get to in the future. Without taking any action, we are going to essentially triple the annual flow of plastics into the ocean by 2040. Importantly, the report stresses that there is no single solution to end plastic pollution. The report makes 8 key recommendations for change, system interventions, and these are designed to reduce plastics at the source, to substitute plastic with alternatives in the right application, to recycle more and more effectively, and where necessary, dispose in the most effective way possible. This great infographic within the report shows 8 system change intervention recommendations. Reduce, substitute, improve design, scale up and collection, double mechanical recycling, develop plastic to plastic conversion, and ultimately dispose when you can't. And of course, reduce waste exports. Of most relevance to us in the compostable packaging industry is intervention number 2, which is substitution. Substituting plastics with paper and compostable packaging. That's been expected to contribute to about a sixth of the overall challenge by 2040. On the right-hand side, you can see that by 2040, we will reach 450 million tons of plastics if we do nothing different. Business as usual. You can also see the level of possible help by the different interventions. The blue portion shows the possible contribution of substitution to paper and compostable materials, and that could contribute to 17% of the way forward. Importantly, where it suggests that compostables are the best fit, the report goes into particular areas such as applications where there is food contamination and packaging which is known to be very difficult to recycle, such as flexible films and multi-layer laminates. So where should we consider compostable packaging? WRAP and the UK Plastic Pact have been the first to publish a guidance on the best practice use of compostables. They advocate the use of compostables in applications which are difficult to recycle, for instance, food-contaminated applications, food caddy liners, fruit and vegetable labels which are removed with the peelings and scraps, tea bags and coffee pods that contain a large amount of product, ready meals and closed-loop situations. There are other segments that I would personally consider for compostable packaging, and a couple are mentioned here. The first one is a very small format segment, such as confectionery. Certainly, the size of these wrappers makes them very difficult to be handled, collected, and recycled. Often, these are also littered, and whilst I would certainly not condone littering, if compostable versions of these little wrappers were littered, their environmental impact would be smaller than that of an equivalent plastic. The second sector that makes sense for compostables, in my opinion, is fresh produce. Peel and discard bits of your fruit and veg, put them into their original packaging, and straight to the compost heap together. So we talked about the reasons for adopting compostable packaging. Let's introduce NatureFlex, our range of renewable and compostable films designed to meet the growing demand for environmentally responsible packaging. The NatureFlex life cycle begins with a renewable raw material, wood pulp sourced from sustainably managed plantations. The bales of wood pulp that you can see at 2 o'clock are converted into viscose, a cellulose solution. The liquid viscose then goes through casting, where it is regenerated into a solid cellulose film, as you can see at 4 o'clock. Next, functional coatings are applied before the film is finally slit to customer size. NatureFlex is used in a wide range of applications, protecting our customers' products. After use, it can then go for composting, and the cycle can start again. A perfect fit for the circular economy. So why consider NatureFlex? Well, first of all, it is a renewable and compostable alternative to conventional plastics. The films have a proven performance, and Futamura has a supply history. They can be used in single ply in many applications, and they are also compatible with other biomaterials to create high barrier laminate structures, for example. End of life is simply composting. The films display several technical attributes that makes them suitable for packaging. They are transparent, but also available in white, metallized, and even some colors. They show excellent gas barrier, and our range includes a range of moisture barrier products, from the very permeable to the high barrier. With their dead fold, the films can be twisted for confectionery, for example, and they can be heat sealed and printed. And importantly, our NatureFlex films meet all the global standards for industrial composting, including EN 13432, and they are certified to OK Compost Home for backyard composting. These images show how NatureFlex films break down in a home compost environment. They are for metallized film, as it is the easiest to track the changes. By week 15, you can see there's nothing left. With regards to the question of certification, Futamura is committed to backing all of the NatureFlex claims with independent testing and certification whenever that is possible and relevant. This slide is a very visual representation of the different accreditations for NatureFlex films, from industrial composting to home composting and global forestry management certification. Let's have a look at some of the shelf success examples. I mentioned that I really believed that small format packaging such as individual sweet wrapping was a good candidate for compostable packaging. This is an example from the US, a company called Le Bon Garçon, who uses our NatureFlex film and printed for its caramel wrapping. A small brand, but a very good example of the application. This is another example in confectionery, also from the US. Alter Eco. The film in this instance is printed with bright colors and the branding of the company. The fully printed film has been certified home compostable, as the picture of the right shows, 100% backyard compostable wrappers. The printing on the two edges of the twist wrap shows that the film is compostable, compost me, and communicates the message to the consumer. This is a good example of fresh produce wrapping coming from Italy this time. Fresh produce is a segment where compostable wrappers are particularly well suited. The produce can be peeled, stalks removed, and all the leftovers can be gathered into the original packaging and straight to the compost heap. In this application, our converter partners use a semi-permeable grade that allows for moisture transfer. Depending on the product wrapped, perforation may be required as well. In this instance, the film is printed and the product wrapped is tomatoes. A whole range of different produce is today wrapped in compostable NatureFlex films. This is also a fresh produce application, this time from the UK. Our local UK converter Parkside Flexibles uses a two-layer structure for wet applications, such as spinach in this picture. The end user is a home delivery organic produce company called Riverford. This is an excellent example of where composting is a great fit for the business model. 80% of Riverford's customers have access to a compost heap, and if they do not, this is not a problem. They can simply send back the packaging back to Riverford with the next delivery to be composted by Riverford. A closed loop. And another great example of compostable packaging from Italy, and in this instance, the leading material is compostable, made from NatureFlex and another layer of biosealant that can seal to the cardboard tray. The end user is Santosola, a producer of special berries, zero residue berries. The compostable packaging fits with the company's ethos. Compostable fruit labels is a segment that is growing fast. Most of us would think it would make sense to put a compostable label. Peel your fruit and veg, pick that peel and put it in a compost. Or hopefully it will be collected in the future with food waste. The plastic little stickers will not get removed by the average consumer and they will simply contaminate the compost. Changing to a compostable label makes sense. I apologize, this is actually a generic picture. Our converter partners add the adhesives and backing layers. And moving to another sector, this is an example from the tea industry. The tea industry has made some good moves in the past few years to compostable tea bags from the previous ones that used large quantities of polypropylene. They often use compostable to match the tea bags and like to have a plant-based solution. And one of the companies that were early adopters of our NatureFlex films is Tea Pigs. Their delicate tea bags are wrapped in NatureFlex transparent flow wrap and then inserted into the FSC certified cardboard. Tea Pigs regularly communicates with their customer base in their adoption of NatureFlex, and you can see enclosed some of the communication. The previous example was an example of bag-in-box. This time we have an example of individual sachet wrapping that is coming from Germany, a company called Samova. Samova openly mentions that they use our film. This is one of my favorite pictures. You can see that the tea sachets are home compostable, and so are the individual wrappers that you can see in blue and white at the left bottom hand side. Our next example is from the chocolate segment from Germany, a company called Vivane. The film replaces the traditional aluminium layer, clear film in this instance, and the messaging is very clear from the company on how to dispose of the film. An example from the cereal bar segment now, Stoats in the UK who use NatureFlex film either in printed or unprinted form for their cereal bars. This is a more sophisticated look achieved by Pursue, this time a combination of paper and a high barrier NatureFlex film, another example from the UK. Keeping in with the laminates, we have now an example from the dried fruits and snacks sector. This time is a more complex solution, including paper on the outside for the graphics, a natural look, and additional layers for barrier and seals. The converter that creates this solution, a UK converter called Parkside, explains how the material breaks down in the home compost environment with a photography below. This complex structure is also fully certified home compostable. And here we have an example from the food service segment. Wedge, the compostable food service packaging company, produces a whole range of compostable food service solutions from bags to cups and cutlery. The company works directly with the waste sector to actively grow trade waste collection routes. And one of their initiatives is around creating a closed loop for their packaging. They have started with their own waste collection service in Central Belt, Scotland. They collect used vegware packaging from their clients for commercial composting in under 12 weeks. They work together with their clients and provide bin signage and expert help to get them started. The coffee market is a especially interesting target for compostable packaging. The complex high-specification laminates used in the industry, often based on polyester, aluminium, and polyethylene, while these structures are undoubtedly very high specification and achieve very high barriers and integrity, their end of life is fairly limited. The nature of the laminate, putting different materials together, makes it difficult for recycling. This is why compostable solutions in this market have drastically increased in the past few years. This example is from the UK, Berkel Coffee, a home compostable triplex structure to replace the standard conventional plastic structure. Coffee capsules certainly also make sense for compostables. The capsules are full of coffee and will therefore be difficult to recycle. There are many compostable solutions in the market today. And whilst this might not be a NatureFlex solution, this is a good example from the UK from a company called Lost Sheep Coffee. As the founder Stuart Wilson remarks, we know our customers want the convenience of being able to make a really quality cup of coffee at home, but without the guilt of chucking more contaminated plastic or aluminium into landfill. In conclusion, I would say compostables are part of the answer. They have the technical performance of conventional plastics with an alternative end of life. Thank you for listening to me. For any queries, please contact us on info@futamuragroup.com.